All right, let's write a song in the style of Cigarettes After Sex. I am mainly inspired by the sounds from their self-titled album, though most of their discography shares a lot of the same type of instrumentation and sounds. We're going to be focused on really washed out reverb guitars, very, very simple drums, awesome bass lines, whisper quiet, intimate vocals. Lyrically, there's a lot of storytelling. All the songs are very romantic, about love and relationships. If you haven't listened to that band, they're pretty well known, but if you haven't listened to them, go take a listen. That's what we're going to be aiming for. We're going to try to get that sound. All right, so I got a session fired up here. I'm going to create some tracks. I've been listening to that album, their self-titled album, for the last week, and I have a little bass line in my head, so I want to lay that down. I am at 90 beats per minute. I'm going to lay that down, and then we will do some drums, and we will build around that. I am thinking starting it off with what will be the chorus without the vocals, but more of an instrumental intro, die down into a verse, and from there. So let's get this bass line down. All right, so we just have DI bass here, and this is what we're working with. Cool. That will be good enough to kind of build upon. I will take that and we can loop it. I am going to go ahead and do a synth bass for that same progression just to thicken it up a little bit. For that, we're going to use expand. So this is just going to follow the bass line. I will do this sometimes just to thicken up songs. After that, we got a little R bass on there, and then just cutting out all that high end. There's not a whole lot. I'm just going to cut some of that out because this is just meant to kind of hold the low end together. And with the bass together. Without it. Yeah, super thin. Let's do some drums. All right, so we have SSD5 loaded up. All right, so I just took some of the kicks out. I like the sound of just the snare kind of like decaying with the reverb and not having a kick there. So like right here, instead of having that kick right after the snare. So add some cymbals, and it wouldn't be Cigarettes After Sex if we didn't ride the ride cymbal. All right, let's go back and add a bass line now that we have kind of a kick pattern to follow. That's gonna be good enough for now. Let's play with some guitars. All right, for guitar, we are going into the Universal Audio Dream pedal, and I'm gonna use the Hall of Fame Reverb by TC Electronic. That's our clean tone. Throw some reverb on it. All right, so that's something. So it's like, think that will work. Just gonna lay that down. Nope. More reverb. Honestly, I feel like that could actually start the song too. So if we just started off with guitar. All right, so that will be our intro as well as our chorus. And then let's go ahead and do a verse. All right, so that'll drop out at the end of that intro. I want to do like a measure of just drums, and I want the synth to, or the reverb and everything to just kind of die out. And then the vocals will come in for the verse. Right there. All right, let's track this bass line for the verse. I think on that last part, I'm just going to hold that out. Maybe cut the drums out the end there. Just boom, boom. Chorus. Like I said, this will be our chorus. Throw that back in there. All right, I'm gonna try to shorten the intro. I feel like it's really easy with a song that's this slow to have the parts just going a little too long. So we have an intro that is gonna be this part, and then during the chorus, it's the same part, but it's this length. And the second half of it, I already have a lyric idea for that, and I wanna add like a high register synth or maybe a second guitar part that's just kind of like chiming to accent that part. I feel like there's not, like this is a good starting point. There's not much more to do. These songs are usually really simple. I do want to have some sort of alternate bridge type part. And let's figure out how to get out of that first chorus and into another verse. And then we'll do a chorus, and then we'll do a bridge. Maybe we don't need like a slow down bridge. Maybe we can do a bridge out of the second chorus, and that can also become the outro. Let's do that. So it'll be intro, verse, chorus, bridge, outro. I want to figure out how we're going to I wonder what it's like to go straight out of the verse, or straight out of the chorus into the verse. Yeah, I think I really like when songs go straight from the verse, I like it when songs go straight from the chorus into the verse and like the vocals pick up like right there. I don't know why, but I've always liked songs that do that. We're going to do that for this song. So all we need here is, we're going to extend this last chorus and do like a alternate bridge. All right, so that's a good enough structure to kind of get started. I still got to write a guitar part for the verses. And then we're going to add some synth. And for the synths, we'll do like a string patch that's really, really dark and just kind of reverby. and super simple. And we got to have tambourine, so I'll find a sample for tambourine. We'll add that in there, and I do want to add acoustic guitar. I don't have one, but I just want like the strumming, like the percussive strummingness of it. So all right, let's build up this intro. I wanted to add a tambourine, and this is from the Circles Dead kit. I just bought this over the holidays, so it worked out that there's a sample in there. We'll add some reverb, and you can't go wrong with the Valhalla verb. All right, so we'll do that during the intro, and that'll be during the choruses as well. Go ahead and label all these sections. That way, if you're following along, you can see. All right, so we have every section labeled. I did want to experiment with some synths. They'll use like a synth string, and then, so I pulled this up. All right, so during the verse, I have this little synth part. It just goes like. So track that. All right, we are back, and it's been a week. I really only have time to do this stuff on the weekends. I work a full-time job, so bear with me. Just a quick refresher on where we're at. We have our intro here. We have a verse. We have a chorus. We have a second verse, and then we have a chorus, and then this extra part here. This is an outro, and then this is just a kind of a guitar fading outro as well. During the week, I did write lyrics for this song. I have a really hard time just sitting down in front of a computer and writing lyrics. Normally, when lyrical inspiration comes to me, it's not when I'm sitting in front of a computer trying to lay out a song. So I do have all the lyrics written. All right, so we have the main riff, and that's going to be our intro, and that goes like this. So that leads us into the song, and then we have a first verse. There's no guitar except for there's a little bit of build up before the chorus, and that's just. And then it goes into the chorus, and then in the first chorus, the guitar is doing this, just really basic. And it just repeats that, and then there's a second part of the chorus where it just goes up. And then it goes back to that other riff. So during the chorus, the ending of that riff is different. It just, instead of going down to the, it goes to the, and it fades out. And then out of the first chorus, we're going straight into the second verse. There is guitar throughout that verse, and it's just following the synth part. Super simple. I want the vocal. I mean, the vocals are like the main sauce here, right? And then we got, right before the chorus comes in, the bass line changes right here. And that's that part where it kind of builds up. Chorus. Cool, and that repeats. And then we have an outro, and it's just repeating. This bass line is just kind of droning on. Guitars do this lead. outro. Yeah, I messed that part up, but you get the point. We've heard that riff, and then that's the end of the song. I also want to try this out. I don't have an acoustic guitar, but I do have a guitar and a microphone, and I think I can make something that's passable. I have these chords that are just during the chorus, and it's just like... I'm going to take those chords and I'm going to track it with the microphone. I'm not looking for an acoustic guitar sound necessarily, but I'm looking for the strumming. I think I can EQ it and give it some reverb just to kind of create a little bit of rhythmic motion in the choruses. So we'll experiment with that, and then we will do vocals, and yeah, we're almost done. All right, so let's jump over to the pedal board. Here we have the JHS Whitey Tidy going into the Slotva reverb by Walrus Audio, and then we have the Death by Audio Echo Dream. Those are the only ones that are on in this chain. I know I wanted to run reverb into a delay. That's why I'm using the Slotva and the Echo Dream. Everything after the Hall of Fame is stereo, and I do not really want to mess with that section of the pedal board. So that's what we got. We'll track in mono, and then in the box, I will probably add a little bit more reverb to give us our stereo image. And that chain sounds like this. Cool, so let's get to guitars. And I'm going to turn the click off to track that outro because I kind of want it to fade out and slow down. And the click is not going to let me do that. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and do some bass, figure out this bass line because I feel like it needs more of a swing. So I'm going to mess with that for a second. All right, so we have our guitars, we have our bass. We need to do acoustic guitar. All right, so I'm going to create a couple of tracks, and what we are going to do is track fake acoustic guitar. So I'm going to name this Act GTR, and then those are going to end up in a bus. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them there. Act GTR bus. All right, so none of this matters. I don't even need to have the guitar plugged in. I am just tracking chords, so it's I'm going to stand up so I can get the guitar in front of the microphone. All right, let's see what that sounds like. All right, so it sounds like an electric guitar being played in front of an SM7B. So let's go ahead and throw an EQ on here. I don't want any low end, but I want to really boost this like body. Just gonna simulate, you know, an acoustic guitar because it would have a giant wooden body. And then I'm gonna copy that to this track. If I heard that, I would think, that's like a poorly recorded acoustic guitar. That's good, and then shimmer. And then we're gonna do another one. Yeah, so that's like a good enough acoustic guitar for not having one. So we'll blend that in. All right, so we're gonna do some vocals. I know that this song's gonna be called Love Language because when I first had this idea to do this song, thought that'd be a cool song name. So first thing I wanna do is I have a little bit of compression and a gate. The gate's mainly just for background noise. So that's what you're hearing. It's not being tracked. And then I'm just gonna track with a little bit of reverb. So that's the reverb. So that'll just help kind of create the feel. All right, so I got my lyrics here. All right, so let's do some vocals. We're gonna do our best impression of Greg Gonzalez from Cigarettes After Sex. Let's do it. While you're slipping on that dress, are you thinking what's the point? 'Cause every boy's the same. It's all performative. Are you trying to keep your cool while you're slipping on that dress? Are you thinking what's the point? Giving up on love. If you're giving up on love, and it feels like. So my approach to vocals is just like, I want 3 takes, just do a couple takes and then just go back and comp them because it's really easy to get stuck just trying to get something, so. Walking over you, if you're giving up on love. All right, moving on. Love to see you for one more day, still on for tonight. All right, so it's the next day. Vocals are done. I tracked into the night last night and woke up today, took a listen to everything, and I'm happy with what I got. So what I'm gonna do is do a couple edits, clean up a few things, do a little mix down, and then we'll take a listen. So this was really fun. I really enjoyed working on this song, especially recording this song, right? Experimenting with the vocals and doing different things and trying to get super intimate, like almost like right in your face, soft, really delicate vocal sound. Experimenting with the acoustic guitar, like how we tracked the guitar in front of the mic and try to EQ it to sound like an acoustic guitar, and just experimenting, just learning things. I'm still learning how to get sounds. I first got a recording set up in like 2011. You know, I recorded bands professionally in studios and went to school for audio production, and just doing this has brought like a refresher to sitting in front of a computer and working on music. Music is in a really weird place right now with AI and just technology. So I encourage anyone that watches this, just go, if you have a small setup, just make sound, make noise. Don't worry about what the other people think. Write songs that you like, write songs that sound like artists that you like. Eventually you're going to find your own sound. You know, just have fun. And that's what this is all about for me. I'm not trying to make a smash hit. I'm just trying to have fun, express myself, and document the process. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you want. I am already working on an Imaginary Tracks 3. It's going to be a fun one. Stick around for that one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.